handy here. So just a little bit of a craft with me today really. I thought I'd do some bits and bobs for my Parisienne journal. So I've cut some tags, well I've cut some pieces of card to 3 1/4 by 6 1/4. I'm going to use my little TK Maxx card that I always use to cut my edges, cut my slanty bits as it were. Okay, like so, and we'll just have a bit of a craft along and see what we can come up with. So do those, and by having this little card, if you make yourself one, then anytime you cut a tag they're always going to be the same, so they're not wonky. Okay. Just trim these and then we'll find some bits and bobs and get some work done. Also need to do some work on, I'll show you in a minute. So I've been doing like an insert, so I'm going to have 2 main journal signatures in my journal, and then the centre part is going to be like an interactive section that I've made from a vintage file folder that one of my friends sent me. So this is what I'm working on at the moment. So it's going to go like so. This is, I don't know if I'm turning it into a pocket or not yet. I've used some of the ephemera and I've kind of done a bit of a ripped collage kind of effect. So that'll hold some ephemera in there, and then this will be a flip, and then this has got some bits and bobs, and we've got a little tuck space there. There's another tuck space there, and then I don't know what I'm doing with that bit, but it's got a gusset, and so I'll sew that into my journal with my signatures either side, which are going to go like that. And yeah, so that's as far as I've got at the moment. I've just selected my pages, I've distressed all the edges and sewn them together. So that's it, that's as far as I've got. So I have shown you how to do this wallet kind of thing before. If you have a look through my tutorials and look for this one, it's done in very much the same way. I've just given myself a determined gusset, so it's made very much the same as that, and there's a step-by-step tutorial on that one. So whether we'll get to working with that today, I don't know. So I'm going to use tea dye. Let me just make sure it's not too strong. I don't want it really dark because I'm not inking my actual pages, I'm only inking ephemera. I'm just going to ink my edges first of all, even though I'm probably going to stick things all over it. I don't quite know what I'm going to do yet. So let's have a think. I've not planned it, it's just going to be what it's going to be. Right, so I think I'm going to add a bit of a pocket, but I want to use some of the... Okay, so I have sped my video up ever so slightly, and I'm doing a voiceover because I'm just not very good at these craft with me type videos. It takes me forever, and the video was like 45 minutes long, and I just don't... I'm just not convinced people want to sit there and watch you waffle on and rip up bits of paper for 45 minutes. But I thought I'd come and have a chat with you, explain some of my process, and have a bit of a waffle and a bit of a catch up. So those that follow me will know that I'm using the Parisienne kit, but you can use whatever you want, book pages, anything. Scrapbooking paper, you can make your own papers, you can do anything. And the idea that I had here is to just make tatty tags. So we're getting paper and we're making it look distressed and tatty and layered. And the more layers, the more interest you've got, and you can, you know, make colours pop by layering. So I'm starting with quite a subtle background. This is quite a... It's meant to be a background journal page, to be honest, you know, for writing on, so it's quite plain, so it makes a nice base for a tag for you to build on. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some of my French ephemera to layer up and add bits from the kit and just use the darker pages as contrast. So I added some darker pages to my kit, and my lovely friend Kay, she is a massive support to me. But if she thinks something's rubbish, trust me, she'll tell me. And she said, it's a beautiful kit, but I'm not sure about those darker pages. So I tried to tell her, you know, these are for contrast. So the idea of the darker pages is to just give a bit of lift to those muted tones. You know, vintage stuff can be very muted and very brown and very boring, in my opinion. So, you know, to lift some and add some colour, I added some contrast pages. So those are strong pattern pages. So here you can see I'm using some of my French ephemera. So you don't have to just use it as just ephemera to put in your journals. You can rip it up and layer it on your tags and your pockets and make clusters from it and just have fun ripping it up. And the good part is it's not like you're using your most treasured graphic 45. I wouldn't be doing this with my Stamperia Alice paper, absolutely not. But I know I can print them out again. It's only on copier paper, so it's no big deal. So I'm inking the edges of each one, even though some of the edges you can't see because they're layered, but you just don't know which bits you're going to see, so you've just got to ink it all. And then I'm gluing on 3 sides because I'm thinking that I can make a tuck spot with it. So there we go. I'm having to adjust because I've not thought it through fully. And that's one reason why I've had to fast forward the video, because often my thought processes when I'm making things like this, I just sit down, I don't really have a plan, and I just start ripping bits of paper and seeing what looks nice. But I'm absolutely determined that I'm having some of the contrast pages on here, so I'm ripping some of those up because I just think those vibrant colours will look proper nice with those muted tones. And I also had to fast forward because my little pooches, my little Shih Tzus, were being true to their name. They are little Shih Tzus, and they were kept coming in my room, nicking stuff, barking at pigeons in the garden. And you know, it's not good when it's on your video. And it's hard to mute, so I've muted the whole thing and done a voiceover. I'm absolutely loving this red paper. But again, another reason why I've fast forwarded it is because I changed my mind, like the weather. And I think I ended up taking that red away and not using it. So I'm having a look through some of the ephemera pages, and I really love these flowers. Now, I told myself they were poppies. I don't know what they are. I'm not a botanist. So if they're not poppies, my apologies. Again, my friend Kay said that there was something else. I can't remember what she said. But in my mind, they're poppies. So I'm just ripping around there, and I do adjust further on as I go. And I make lots and lots of adjustments. I think it's easy to think that when you're making something that, it doesn't look right, and just throw it to one side and stop bothering. But the trick is to keep working at it and keep moving things around and deciding where you want them. That postage stamp, I knew I wanted it on, but I didn't quite know where it was going to go, and I decided to layer it inside the pocket so that when you take out whatever's in the pocket, it's still got interest even on its own. So yeah, so just keeping on layering and inking and ripping those bits of lovely coloured papers. I really should do, like, I don't know, there's one lady that does like crime stories over her videos. Probably because there's only so much talking you can do when it comes to doing craft alongs. And unless you're doing them live and you're talking to, you know, your watchers and your viewers, then you know, what more can you say other than I'm cutting this bit of paper and I'm gonna stick it on here. But at the same time, I think these sort of videos are valuable to show you kind of thought processes. I think I need to put my teeth in. Your thought processes. So here I've decided that I want to add some scraps of lace, and I've got a scrap box. And so I'll layer them behind, and it just adds texture and obviously more colour. But you can see me there fair faffing about. Decided that there's too much white showing on those flowers, and can't quite decide where to put it. And so yeah, That's why we have the beauty of fast forward and voiceovers. Because I think you'd rather watch paint dry than 45 minutes of me deciding where I'm sticking those words, to be fair. But these sort of things, these, oh, you can see my red hair there, these kind of projects, you know, they often can take quite a while in the making, but they're so valuable because they just make your journals or whatever project you want to put them on, they make them unique. Nobody's going to rip a piece of paper the same way that you do. They're always going to be different. And every time you do one, it's going to be different, you know. And then when you are looking through Pinterest or Instagram or whatever, sometimes you'll see people that use certain products or stamps or paper, and the projects look much of a muchness, to be honest, and they all look the same. And that's the beauty of journaling and making things like tatty tags, because you're never going to find two that are exactly the same. You're never going to be able to make it exactly the same because you can't hand rip a piece of paper in the same way twice. It's impossible. But that's the fun of it, and it's almost freeing to not have to do things in certain sizes and in certain ways, and that is the beauty of journaling, and that's why it's so popular with people, especially like junk journaling. And I'm going to say junk even though I've not used junk. I don't care, it's my channel and I'll say what I want. To me, this is kind of like a junk kind of theme, because everything's tatty and ripped and it looks, you know, but then when you layer them all down, it just looks pretty cool, to be honest. So I'm going to add a hole to the top. Now, although, you know, the rest of it's pretty random, I do have to measure where the hole goes because I do want it central, otherwise it's going to look a little bit pants. So, you know, I do advise you to measure than trying to do that by eye, because if you've got wonky eyes like me, you're never going to get it straight, and then you've done all that work for nothing. So I'm trying to find something to go along the bottom of here out of my scrap box. I always have a clear idea in my head what I want. Sometimes, you know, I don't have the right thing, or I don't have something in my stash that's right. I'll just find something and just make it fit. You don't have to go buying loads of stuff. You don't have to have every single thing that, you know, every crafter has. Just have a look what you've got in your own collection and just make it work. You'll be surprised how good things can look when they're done. I do decide that small scrap of lace just isn't enough for me. It doesn't look right. You can see me there rubbing my fingers. I do that when I get a little bit stressed and a bit distracted and I feel like things aren't going right and things aren't going my way. So I decided to cut it longer and add a full strip. But that's the beauty. You can change your mind. And whatever you do is you don't give up on your project. You just keep going because things develop. I never just throw, very, very rare, sometimes I will if it's turned out really rubbish, but very rare will I discard a tag or a pocket or something because I think it's not right. I'll just keep going because these things develop, you know, and the more layers you add, the better in all honesty that it looks, because it's interest, it's drawing things to the eye. And when you put it in a journal, you could add that to a plain journal page and it's just going to lift it because there's lots to look at. So here I'm using some leftover sari silk. I kind of fell out with sari silk a bit because the one that I bought is really nice, but I find that it rips very easily, which is a sign that it's over processed. So if you buy sari silk and it rips, if you're trying to use it for a journal tie or a closure and it just tears, it's because it's been over processed, over bleached or whatever, and it can be slightly annoying. But it makes great ties for the top of your tags. Perfect, because you don't need to put no you know, strength to it. It doesn't have to be anything special. It's just for fun and just to look pretty. So here I'm just getting some of the ephemera and I'm tattying up the edges with my scissors. I've tried those distressing tools and I just don't get on with them. So don't bother wasting your money, just use the edge of your scissors. And there's one done. As I fast forwarded it, it looks like I've done it in 5 minutes and not 20. So here I'm starting again with another, and I'm using scraps. You know, don't waste the parts that I rip off. I'll use the off, you know, the off bits. What can you call it? Off cut of a ripped leftovers. We'll call them leftovers. I'll use the leftovers on something else. Nothing, very little gets wasted. Literally, I will tiny bits like that I've, you know, I'm not going to save 1-inch scraps, but large pieces like that will get reused, and I'll leave them on my desk, and I'll make sure that I use them within the journal that I'm making until they're gone. So I won't be printing out any more until these are done. But you do have the beauty, as I say, of being able to reprint your favourite ones. So here I'm using one of the lovely dark background papers that Kay didn't like. Just to show what they're for, like I say, for contrast and for adding. Look how that looks nice against that muted background of the ephemera. It just brings it to life. And when you do vintage doesn't have to mean just brown and grungy and boring. You can add pops of colour, and that's what I've tried to do with the entire kit, is to bring pops of colour with the blues and the reds, and there's some yellow in there. So now I'm deciding what I want to layer on, and I've decided I just like the poppies. Although that one's a little bit faded, I could have done with using one of the stronger ones, but I faded that out on the paper. But I decided in the end to actually fussy cut around the flowers and have them as a feature on there. So I'll fussy cut around them, and then very elegantly, as you can see, and then I will just glue it on 3 sides. And so, as well as adding interest to that tag, it's also an extra little tuck spot you can put little tiny things in. So I'm cutting off the bud at the top there, because I decided I can't be bothered to cut round it. So if there's bits on things that you think, oh, I don't want to fussy cut that leaf, cut it off, it doesn't matter, it's fine. It'll still look cool, and it'll still look great. Look at that, it's lovely. That's going to add really nice interest to that pocket. But I still want a tatty look. I can't really tatty up where I fussy cut, so I'm tattying up the bottom and the side. I have all of my ephemera I've printed on the back with coffee dyed paper, and I do that so that if for some reason it shows, you know, off the edge of a page, or I decide to use it for something else, then I don't have to ink it. It's just easier. And it doesn't use, I've got an Epson eco tank, so I can print willy-nilly all day long, and it's very budget friendly. So I'm lucky. I ain't got time for coffee dyeing paper. There's a cost of living crisis. I'm not putting the oven on to dry, or the heater on to dry coffee dyed papers, and so I will print them. At the moment, that is a more budget friendly way of doing it. So I've decided that I want some more colour on this, and so I remember that one of the tags has got this lovely lady with the red coat, and that the colours are quite vibrant. So my first thought was to add her inside as a tag, but as we go you'll see that I completely changed my mind. If I ever do a Craft With Me live, don't bother watching it, because I will change my mind about 500 times. So unless it's something like an album or something where I've got a specific plan, it would just be a train wreck. And that's why I've fast forwarded this and done a voiceover. So I was going to slot her inside. I wanted her as a little tag. And then I decided that, do you know what? No, I'm going to fussy cut it. Because I'm a nutter. I do like fussy cutting. I find it quite therapeutic, and you can home in on the bits of papers that you really, really love and make them into a feature, which just looks lovely. I think my pocket's glued on there, and I'm struggling to fit her in. And then when I put her in, I think, well, I don't really want to hide her. So you can see my brain ticking over there. So we're off with the fussy cutting scissors. If you're fussy cutting, you know the process is move your paper, not your scissors. If it's not perfect, it really doesn't matter. I use, these are Stampin' Snips. They are the best scissors ever, because they're lovely and sharp, and they've got nice thin blades. And I think that's really important for fussy cutting, is that the blades are very thin, and not big fat chunky blades. otherwise you're not going to get an accurate cut. See how nice that looks? I think that just looks lovely, just sat there behind. And so I'll glue her just onto the slanted section of the pocket so that you can still tuck things behind the poppies, and then you can add things to the pocket again. Excuse my messy red hair in the shot there, I do apologise. So I'm in the scrap box again because I told myself it needs something more, and I fished out some cheesecloth. I'm not a big fan of cheesecloth, and the reason being, and not because I'm a control freak, but I kind of am, because I can't control where it goes. It shrinks, and then you stick it on and it sticks to your fingers, and it just generally annoys the heck out of me, if I'm honest. But it does look really nice. So you'll see me faffing about with it, trying to get it right, trying to get it exactly how I want it. Because although it's random crafting, you know, want it random in my way. So I've got a lovely Paris word there. I'm going to layer it on that lovely blue paper, which is just going to add another pop of colour. So we've got layers of muted and layers of colour. So it just really works. So if you're struggling and your page looks a little bit dull or a little bit boring, then get one of the contrasting papers or a contrasting paper out of your stash and just layer it underneath things. It really does make a difference. So this is me trying to control the cheesecloth. It's not having it. It wants to stick to my fingers. And then I decide that you can hardly see it anyway underneath the tag, and that really frustrates me. If I'm doing layers on things, I want to be able to see them, so I'll take the word off again and I'll try and readjust that cheesecloth so that you can see it both top and bottom, because it's pointless having a layer on something if you can't see what's underneath. So there we go, that's my tags. I'm just going to add some more of that leftover. I'm talking waffle here. I've decided to cut some ephemera to put in the pocket. Then I'm going to add some more of that sari silk to the top. So I've picked this one purposely because again it's got the lovely reds and blues in, so it'll look nice against the rest of the muted tones. Just inking with some tea dye. And this will have been coffee dyed on the back as well. Not coffee dyed, but printed coffee dyed on the back. So that looks cool because then it looks like the balloons behind her, you know, that she's in the background with it. So it's quite a clever layer. And then I'm just adding more ephemera. I didn't have it all cut ready because I'm not that organised. I'm not that person. But yeah, it's just about having fun and just rip things up and ink things and put things together until you're happy with how it looks. There's no right or wrong. There's absolutely no right or wrong when you're doing this. It's all about having fun, getting your supplies, getting your images, ripping them and just making a big hot mess in your room and just having fun. So there we go. I'm adding a paper clip there. I like to add paper clips to things. They're inexpensive and it just adds a little bit of interest. So again, I do mark every time where to do a hole for my top part there because I am blind and I will get it wonky, and I would be really annoyed if I had spent 20 minutes making a tag to then put a wonky hole. We don't want that, so just take 2 seconds extra and measure it. Leftover scraps, I'm going to use everything that's on my desk is going to get used up in this journal, and then when I've done there'll literally be slivers of things left. So there you go. I hope you've enjoyed that. I hope you like the tags. Thanks for watching. Take care and I'll see you again very, very soon. Bye.